Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to whoever it is in the world you are streaming here on Twitter, as well as those of you on YouTube. Let me turn my fan on. Just got off the tennis court. Why am I a black screen? It's a good question. I'd like to know why I can't be seen. Just got off the tennis court. Why am I a black screen? It's a good question. I'd like to know why. Is it a black screen for everyone else? Why am I a black screen? Okay. I'm back. Every time it's something different. Looks like it's working. You're just going to have to deal with StreamYard. Am I on the right internet? I'm on the right internet. Okay. Just got off the tennis court, got out of the shower. Fantastic day here at the beach in Los Angeles. Tank season is upon us. So I was a couple of minutes late going live today. You know what? I'm so sick of the quality. Why is every stream I do shitty quality? I have two internets. I have a MacBook Pro. Why doesn't anything ever fucking work? Ever. StreamYard, OBS, it just updates and updates and updates. Twitter, it's always something different. Since the Periscope days were notorious. Giving myself the hiccups, I'm getting upset. Why doesn't anything ever fucking work? Anyway, welcome back. Okay, so let's calm down. Let's focus. Right, I was a couple of minutes late going live because, well, now you can't even see the damn background. Why did that lag getting populated? Fucking StreamYard. I'm trying to get my point out. Right before I went live, I was a couple minutes late because the Brooklyn Nets decided that Noah Clowney is no longer feeling good enough to play in tonight's Battle of Kursk against the Indiana Pacers, who, by the way, just decided yesterday to put their A team out against the New York Knicks because it was the Knicks. And then they were going to punt the game the next night, even though it's not a true road back-to-back because it's in the same city. So this is the game that they bench Nesmith, Nembhard, McConnell, you name it. Is Jarris Walker even playing in it? You name it. I can't do anything about the damn camera freezing. If I switch internets, I don't know if it's going to solve the issue. You know what? I just prefer to be frozen the whole fucking time anyway, because you won't see how frustrated I am. At least the screen with the damn Prophet X is working. Someone will benefit from this. How annoying. Here, I'm going to try doing this. Bear with me. I'm getting grumpy. Sometimes you just have to blow in the cartridge and hope it works. My stream is tanking. Anyway, for as long as this works, at least I'll get it off my chest that the Brooklyn Nets have responded. Their battalion headquarters has responded with Michael Porter Jr., Noah Clowney, and Nick Claxton all out tonight for Brooklyn against the Indiana Pacers and their own legion, armada of tanks. Those of you that don't know the Battle of Kursk, the biggest tank battle in human history, there on the Eastern Front during World War II. Soviet Union versus the Germans, the Wehrmacht. Is it as bad on YouTube as it is on Twitter? You guys honestly should be used to it by now. If you're still somehow following Worldwide Wob on Twitter, that means you have been trained and accustomed to shitty quality streams ever since I started producing content. It is my brand. Filming television screens with iPhone 7s and producing 10.80p quality streams. Can you guys ask some questions, please? Because I'm getting a little flustered here. This is a 14-game slate in the association tonight. We have two epic tank battles between the Kings and the Jazz. So the Jazz have Lauri Markkanen, past tense, Lauri Markkanen out due to rest. And then an hour later, the team account updates that now Lauri Markkanen is in, which makes me think that they got a little phone call from Midtown Manhattan. I swear to God. Got a little call from Midtown Manhattan that if you don't play Lauri Markkanen tomorrow, we're going to have some problems. That the temperature in the kitchen is getting hot. And then all of a sudden, he ends up in the lineup. You know what? I'm going to try. What was the last time I tried to switch internets? Did that work? Because I can do it. I just don't know if it's going to kill the stream. This is. Yeah, all right. As long as you guys can hear me fine, it's just the audio. So yeah, Lauri Markkanen in. And then most of those Sacramento Kings that are out tonight are guys that most of them have legitimate injuries, but let's not act like Russell Westbrook was being forced to play by the Kings training staff and front office. The Jazz are 5.5-point favorites tonight against the Kings. My God. What's the line there in Brooklyn? 6.5 between the Nets and the Pacers. Oh my God. And what's crazy is I actually really care about this game because I have the Nets season win total over 20.5. And this is like an essential victory. This is my Super Bowl. If they're going to get to 21 season wins, they have to get this one. Joel Embiid, Quentin Grimes out for the 76ers tonight as the Knicks are 2-point favorites. That was a rough game last night. You guys ever heard Madison Square Garden that quiet before when Cat stepped to the free throw line at the end of regulation, needing to make both of those free throws to force overtime? That is by far the quietest I've ever heard it. I've been alive 38 years. Because even when someone hits a big shot like Trae Young, Reggie Miller, you can hear the groans or the flabbergasted fans. It's just dead silence. And to his credit, he ended up making both. But, man, that was a rough game for Cat. And the problem with Cat is that, similar to his time in Minnesota, you can sign him up for these 4 fouls guaranteed at some point in a game. Pushing the back during a rebound, hand check as he rides a guard up the floor defensively for no reason, a moving screen, and then just needlessly reaching in at some point. Those 4 fouls are guaranteed. Now, what he's adding to his repertoire is his aggressiveness getting to the rim, honestly, is what I love about him the most. That he's no longer just settling for three-pointers because his percentage has regressed down to about 35 on the season, which is good for most players, but we're talking about the unanimous best shooting big man in the world here. So what Karl-Anthony Towns has been doing is putting the ball on the floor, and he does this like hook when he's dribble penetrating. He'll hook the defender's arm around him, a la James Harden, and then he'll go up and he creates contact. But almost every single time the officials have been blowing that as an offensive foul. And 2 of them happened yesterday, and almost 1 per game has been happening regularly. To Cat's credit, during the end of the winning streak, he had 3 consecutive games where he had 0 fouls, and 3 fouls, staying out of the stupid foul trouble. But when he gets it at the beginning of the 4th, like it happened yesterday, he doesn't return until 3 minutes remaining in the game. When you don't have Mitchell Robinson available because he's being load managed for tonight's game against Philadelphia so that he's made available, no OG Anunoby, it is essential that Karl-Anthony Towns manages his foul trouble even more so than usual. Ariel Hukporti goes out there, is just not the same. So shout out to Cat for making those free throws, but his inconsistencies shooting the basketball, I will attribute to his inconsistencies in being able to stay on the floor for 35 minutes. Oh, shout out to the Pacers, who have Micah Potter and Jarace Walker officially in the lineup tonight. Let's continue to discuss tanking. Thank you, Chad. What's the game of the night? Well, it's certainly not Knicks Sixers without Joel Embiid. The answer is going to be Pistons Raptors at 4:30 in a pick'em. Look at that. Raptors favored by 1 here on ProfitX. Raptors favored against the beasts of the East. And speaking of the Raptors, please allow me the opportunity to include them in the whole tanking conversation, because the world is unfairly pointing the fingers at the Utah Jazz when there are so many teams guilty of infringing on the integrity of the game. What the Utah Jazz are doing, playing Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr., Yusuf Nurkic, and even if Keontae George was available, they're playing for 25 minutes, and they come out halfway through the third, and they don't re-enter the game. And many will see that as a way to ethically tank, to manipulate the final result without actually tanking, which, by the way, tanking is responsible for why the San Antonio Spurs and Oklahoma City Thunder are so good right now. Tanking absolutely works. The way the Jazz are going about it, though, by playing their guys and then removing them when the clutch gets here, has fans thinking that this just completely spoils the first 2 hours of competitive basketball when you bring in someone off the bench that hasn't really played yet, or, we see what you're doing here, Jazz. We see what you're doing. Need I remind you that Toronto did this with Scotty Barnes last year as well. And then someone before Toronto probably did it. There is not one team that should be egregiously the face of tanking. I watched Scotty Barnes play 25, 27 minutes and get taken out of the game. Brandon Ingram had an ankle injury in New Orleans before the trade last year. It was supposed to be just a pretty basic ankle sprain. Guess who never returned to the lineup? Toronto was optimizing their draft position, whether they will ever admit it or not. They are acting in the best interest of the franchise, not the league. Now, by the way, there's a guy on Utah's roster named Bryce Sensabaugh who not only hit the game-winning shots against the Miami Heat, but he is not going out there to tank. Just because he is not on the back of his jersey, it doesn't say Markkanen, it doesn't say Jackson Jr., it doesn't say Nurkic or George. Doesn't mean these guys can't hoop. They blew the game in Orlando. They blew the game in Atlanta, but they won the game in Miami. So you know what's going to happen here in the near future? You know what's going to happen? Utah is going to play Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. at the end of the fourth quarter. And instead of them allocating their minutes in the third, they're going to sit out the third and play a couple of minutes in the fourth. So you can no longer point the finger at these guys and say you are responsible for the integrity of the NBA being degraded. We played the guys in the fourth. We heard you. You can't yell at us anymore. They'll do it a couple of times to get everyone off their back. The biggest problem here is not that Utah is doing something that hasn't been done before. It's that it's occurring on February 11th. And honestly, it's been happening since the end of January. We're not even at the All-Star break yet, and teams are tanking. Different variations and forms of tanking, but nevertheless, teams are tanking. So I think it has become such a rabid, the discourse has become rabid because the usual precedent of timing, when this usually occurs, has grown to be acceptable at the end of March in the first 2 weeks of April. Okay, obviously you're not going to make the playoffs. Let's just manage our guys. NBA fans are willing to look past that. But because it's happening so early in February that teams are throwing games without actually throwing them, when does it stop? Carly asks, why do you think players are so cool with sitting when healthy to help a team tank? What's their incentive? That's an easy answer. Do you see how much money Jaren Jackson Jr. makes? Do you know how much money Lauri Markkanen makes? Do you know how big those weekly paychecks are? Do you want to rock the boat? I wouldn't. They tell me I'm sitting. I'm sitting. I don't want to get traded. I don't want to lose this money. I want them to talk behind my back like I'm not a team player. I'm trying to cash these checks. I don't have to do anything besides sit here. Team's not going to win anyway. There is so much money to be made with the NBA right now that this has just become a cash cow in so many different ways. All-Star Weekend is a money-making convention for the league. You know what NBC's paying to broadcast this bullshit? They got a guy with a ruptured Achilles participating in the three-point contest. They got 4 no-name dudes in the dunk contest. No one's going to give a shit. We're down to 4 starters are probably going to miss the All-Star game. And they will make more money than ever. So for something to be done here, which is pretty obvious, and it's lowering the number of games in the regular season so that they mean more, and there's less opportunity to miss a couple and play the second leg of back-to-backs because that's the way you can optimize load management. If you drop the season from 82 to 65 games, that's 17 sets of games and commercials for regional sports networks. That's 17 games that NBC, Amazon, and ESPN are going to have to sacrifice, probably equally. That is millions and millions. Also, tickets, concessions, merchandise, in-game promotions, in-game advertising. All of that makes money. Money. You want to give up 17 games, which equates to a little less than 20%, I assume, of total gross revenue on the season just to make the product better long-term? Good luck telling not only the owners to accept that, but the Players Association both have to come to terms. You want to tell the players to make less money so that fans care more about the product? Hell no, I'm not voting on that. You go take the money from somewhere else. Hell no. Some of these guys are only in the NBA for a couple of years. I'm trying to maximize my earnings before I'm out of the league forever. Hell no. What else? Have I just been frozen the whole time? I love how the background works. Prophet X, the screen share still works. It's still sliding around. Cat was nervous, but yeah, 7-8. Cat was nervous when MSG was that quiet. You could tell he was trying to like body language those free throws in. So, okay, Jay Smooth says, I just joined. Has Wab mentioned my whiz kids in the tanking conversation? Well, yeah, of course, they're one of the guilty parties here, but they're also one of the teams that was tanking, and they still won the game anyway. They beat the Pistons in Detroit by 9 with Tamir Watkins, Sharif Cooper, and Anthony Gill. The Jazz beat the Miami Heat despite benching Markkanen, Nurkic, and Jaren Jackson Jr. That's 2 examples of when teams were supposed to be taking and still won anyway. And then it inspires Bam Adebayo in the post-game press conference to say, we should probably beat the teams that are trying to lose, which is insane to hear out of a player's mouth. And players don't tank. So the players on the floor were not trying to lose. But we obviously get what he means, where the Utah Jazz organization and franchise is probably thinking we should lose this game. 7-8 says Cat's been in the league too long to not know when to complain or not when to know when the calls go his way or not. Yes, I agree. Even Mike Breen was getting a little upset last night with his incessant complaining as if he's Luka Doncic. Did you guys see the TMZ report, by the way? Gee Whiz hired the same attorney as whatever the Jackson Hayes' girlfriend's name for the domestic assault case. He hired the same attorney. He's actually going through with this, Gee Whiz. Calico Joe says tanking doesn't work. Overhauling that culture takes way longer than building a roster good enough to win. You can't just change people to change the stink of bad culture organization. Well, yeah, last stream I mentioned how I don't envy Will, not jealous of Will Hardy at all, because he's being tasked with pressure from the front office to lose games while also building chemistry with his younger players so that they are ready to go when the team decides to start winning. And how are you supposed to build culture when you're losing, when everyone's perception is that you're losing games intentionally? And by the way, Jackson Hayes' defense on the Gee Whiz altercation was that Gee Whiz stepped on his foot when he was stretching, which is what we kind of thought happened, right? But what's Gee Whiz trying to do? Sue him to settle? Did Gee Whiz get hurt? Is Gee Whiz a male or a female inside? I need some more details. Danny says there's just no shame anymore. Back in the day, it took Chicago almost 30 years from 99 to rebuild into modern day, securing the dancing bear, Yabu. Rondo says, what are my thoughts on the All-Star Weekend fix proposed by Nick Wright, black people versus white people? It would get people to watch. I don't know if all attention is good attention. That's where we're at. Yes, I saw buddy Nick Wright proposed on Bill Simmons' show that you might as well make the All-Star game white people versus black people, which is just, I mean, I'm going to watch regardless. But would it inspire the players to care? Can you imagine if they treated that like Game 7 of the finals? All the NBA had to do was get a little racism into the business model to get the players to care. It's just so ludicrous. Who would I take in that game? Okay, hold on. Before I get to that, Sleeper Warrior says too many playoff teams. There's always going to be tanking teams, but there's zero urgency for even the good teams in the league, which allows them take every other night off because 2/3 of the league makes the postseason. Yeah, I don't mind the play-in tournament. I don't, because it keeps more fan bases engaged, but you're right in that it also dilutes the potency of the regular season when 2/3 of the league ends up making the playoffs to some extent, whether you consider the play-in tournament postseason play or not. Okay, so let's get back to who would be on the rosters All-Star Weekend, white versus black. Okay, so it would be Luka, Cooper Flag, Reeves, Jokic, is there another obvious one I'm missing? Who would round out the white roster? Marketing? There's got to be someone on Boston. Denny Avdia? Okay, well, that's the starting five, I think. Jokic, Luka, Flag, Markkanen, Austin Reeves, with Peyton Pritchard off the bench. Against Steph, Shea, Ant-Man, Wemby. Oh my God. And you could go Kevin Durant. You could go LeBron. There's so many options. Cade. Oh, shit. I would make that spread. They would also have depth, by the way. Kyrie. Oh, white team has Concanapo. I will make team. Again, if you're just joining us, I've been asked the question if All-Star Weekend was whites versus blacks. I would make the black team a 4.5 point favorite. No, Carly, that's one of the most obvious secrets in the league right now. So the governor of the Utah Jazz, Ryan Smith, a BYU alum, worked really hard to get AJ Dybantsa to BYU. He's just down the street in Provo. He has built equity with the fan base there. It is a match made in heaven if AJ Dybantsa ends up going to the Utah Jazz. Business-wise, basketball-wise, star power, connections with Ryan. They want AJ Dybantsa, but they have to put themselves in a spot that they can get a top 2-3 pick, because that's probably where Dybantsa is going to go. That order between Boozer, Wilson, Dybantsa, and Darren Peterson. I don't know what's going to happen with Darren Peterson after his little tiff with Bill Self lately. But I feel like Dybantsa is going to end up going 1 or 2. And Utah knows that. I do wonder if Utah would consider trading up for the number 1 pick to go get him. I don't know anything that you don't, but something that crosses my mind. Greetings from the Toyota Center. What's happening, Helwick? Who are the Rockets playing tonight? I forgot. Let's find out. Did you get a decent price on the ticket, hopefully? Oh, are they running it back against the Clippers? They are. So this is one of those baseball series. Played the Clippers yesterday. Play them again tonight. Tough to beat the same team twice in 2 days, but. Oh, the white team. Helwick, you just missed the conversation about, I was just asked if All-Star Weekend was white people versus black people, what would the teams look like? I forgot about Chet Holmgren and Alex Caruso. But Chet would probably think want to play on the other team. But you're right. He would, yeah, 4.5 spread seems right if Luka and Jokic and Reeves were trying their hardest. Oh, I wonder. Yeah, can you imagine if the Jazz got number 2 and then whoever was picking number 1 was threatening to take Bonza, holding him ransom against the Jazz, and that we will take Walker Kessler and the number 2 pick to give you number 1. Something tells me the Jazz are going to want to move up to go get Bonza, because that does make way too much sense. What would be an amazing strategy? You got to be more specific because we're bouncing around topics here. I don't want to say anything that gets me canceled if someone takes it out of context. Oh, yeah. Yeah. When we get to draft night, if Utah ends up with the 2nd or the 3rd pick, you're going to see a lot of stories about we're taking AJ number 1, because it is no secret who the Jazz want. No, it's not the Jazz holding AJ hostage. It's teams holding AJ hostage against the Jazz. Yes, correct. 76ers Celtics, when they traded down, and then not only did they trade down, but Boston got the better player with Jason Tatum. That was the Jason Tatum, Lonzo Ball, Markelle Fultz draft, if I'm not mistaken. So interesting. I got to, like, the games to me aren't nearly as, I'd say if there was a 10-game slate standard night in the association when you get to the dog days, I'd say 1 or 2 games were actually good and fun. Those are the games that I'm paying the most attention to. It's usually between teams with star power on national television that show up and actually treat it as if it's a real game. Most of the others, load management, the energy in the building is very like everyone's punching the time clock. I'd say 80% of a daily NBA slate feels like meh. So it's conversations like this that have to keep us going, because I think we spoke about this on a previous stream. Nobody cares about the flex cut pin down screen that a second stringer on the Miami Heat ran in setting up an open look. Only the most extreme basketball nerds care about something like that. Doesn't mean we're not aware of what it is, but people don't find interest in that kind of stuff unless it's basketball being played at the highest level. That's when film breakdown and X's and O's and coaches drawing up ATOs at the end of a playoff game, people are looking for the explanations on that. But to think that type of content is being desired by a mainstream audience that is just now coming over from football, let us explain this Jaime Jaquez seal so that Davion Mitchell could drive down the lane. Like, who gives a flying fuck? Nobody, even me. Most defenses are apathetic in the regular season. The reason why that shit was open was not some genius play design. Who's going to get Jeremy Sohan? Minnesota is in a spot. Minnesota's been waiting for Chris Middleton, I feel like. But Chris Middleton, did he not dress for the Mavericks game yesterday? I wasn't paying attention if he actually played or not. He was a big buyout candidate, I thought. Hey, Drew Smith's a good player. Am I watching a Night of the Seven Kingdoms? Not yet. My TV slate is quite full. I have 5 shows that I'm keeping up with at the moment. Now that Landman is done. Industry is at the top of the list. By far number 1. Might be the best show on TV. Industry, The Pit, Tehran, Shrinking. Both of those are on Apple TV. And what else? Those are for now. I'm missing one, but Middleton did play. Oh, interesting. Stoney, how many minutes did he go? So I don't have to pull it up. Middleton played and scored 13 points. Wow. Oh, by the way, if you paid a premium to go to the Phoenix Suns game tonight, the world champion Thunder are in town. No Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And guess who got downgraded? Jalen Green, Devin Booker. Load management. Second leg of a home back-to-back. I have Lakers season tickets. I saw how much someone paid for my seats last night, and they paid in advance of game day. I saw how much they paid. I would have an expectation if I was paying that price that I'm going to get at least 2 of Wemby, Reeves, Luka, and LeBron. Minimum 2. That did not happen. I'd be pissed if I paid $400 to sit in the lower bowl and I got to watch Wemby walk around like Godzilla in downtown Tokyo against Bronny James. You fucking kidding me? 35-point blowout. He could have. So Wemby had 25 points in the first 7.5 minutes of the first quarter. And I was watching Bronny James and Luke Kennard have to switch onto him. It was a laughable lineup that the Lakers ran out there. Now, they have legitimate reasons because LeBron qualifies for the old man exception in the player participation policy. Luka has an actual injury, and Austin Reeves is returning from his own injury on a minutes restriction. So you're not going to get dinged by the NBA, especially when that game is on NBA TV and not NBC because of the Winter Olympics. But can you imagine paying for a ticket to that game? It's over within the first 5 minutes, and all you get is Wemby before he's taken out halfway through the third quarter. That is the NBA in a nutshell. Somebody out there bought tickets to Thunder versus Suns tonight and the potential of Jalen Green and Devin Booker being out, plus Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It's like, great. The fuck? And this is also a point that I brought up on the show earlier, but because we're all sickos and we're keeping up with the league and we've obviously been watching for some time, that doesn't mean that everyone else in the arena is as well. I will guarantee there was at least one person inside of Madison Square Garden yesterday. That was their first experience watching the NBA. Because there's tourism, of course, even with this weather in New York. Somebody out there was a tourist that decided to go to the Knicks game to see basketball for the first time. You walk away from a game like that and you're like, Holy shit, that was actually really fun. That Indiana Pacers team that's 27 games under 500 sure was competitive. It went down to the wire. There was star power out there, a rivalry. I'd like to go watch it again. Oh my goodness gracious. The Pacers are playing again tomorrow night. All I have to do is cross the Brooklyn Bridge and I get to watch them at Barclays Center. I'm going to buy tickets. That was really fun. And guess what's going to happen tonight? What happens on most nights in the NBA, where you get rugged. And all of those guys that were contributing to such a tremendous entertainment product and atmosphere at Madison Square Garden are no longer present. And you've got two tanking teams going through the motions with zero atmosphere, like, oh, this isn't the same. No shit. And unless you are waiting until game day to make sure that the star players are available, which is what most want to see, I don't know what to tell. There's so many horror stories of people paying premiums and getting ripped off. Andrew Wiggins is out, by the way, for Miami Heat. So just deal with my frozen face for a minute, shall you? Will you? It'll come back at some point. Anthony Edwards is in the lineup, yes. Good to go for Minnesota. One of the few guys that when they're questionable, they're almost always in. Yep, the Pacers, you better believe if the Thunder or the Knicks are on the menu, they are going to play their guys and actually care, and that's what happened last night. You took the Pelicans today? Who against the Heat? Pelicans, 1.5 point favorites. Can you believe Trey Murphy III was not invited to the 3-point contest, but Bobby Portis was? 50, 40, 90 guy in college and the pros. Just dropped 12 threes the other night against the Milwaukee Bucks of all teams. Not even invited to the 3-point contest. Pelicans 120. Well, you could have used ProfitX, Danny. They're minus 113 here. You don't have to pay that extra juice. See? How dependent are the Pistons on Duren and Stu? That was a light suspension, by the way. I set the over-under at 15 games because of a repeat offender. They're going to be without Jalen Duren or Stu. Yeah. You're going to find out tonight, but I imagine, let's see. Oh, they have B-Ball Paul, don't they? I think they have B-Ball Paul. Franja says, I'm one of the tourists that went to a late April Nets game in Brooklyn against the pre-Hinkie 76ers. Goodness gracious. So many sickos in the chat. Yes. Trey Murphy trebuchets that shit. What else you guys got? We've got about 6 minutes or so before games begin. 14 game slate in the association. And guess what? They're all stacked towards the front. There's only one 10 p.m. Eastern game tonight, and it's between the Spurs and the Warriors. So Is it becoming more and more apparent that Victor Wembanyama is going to qualify for the 65 game rule? I don't think he's missed a single game since he came back. And he still has 5 or so to spare. Darren Williams. Okay, so that Brooklyn Nets team was D. Will, Darren Williams, Joe Johnson. I mean, was that Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett? I can't believe that was a team. Oh, my God. Pause, Danny. I drink from the chalice of Trey Murphy every Sunday. I see what you mean because you get the show, but no one's going to understand that besides me. Oh my God. Chris Humphreys. Chris Humphreys mentioned in the chat. Jeez, Mr. Kardashian. Jason Terry. Whoa. The end of his career. Marshawn Brooks. Sheldon Williams. Oh my God. That was my point about if I'm a player, I am never, ever voting for us to take less money because I'm Marshawn Brooks and I got my one contract. I got to make as much money as I possibly can. Ain't no way I'm getting a second deal. Sean Kilpatrick, wasn't he a Cincinnati Bearcat? Yeah, the Chicago Bulls just dropped their starting lineup. They got Gershon Yabusele out there. Amazing jersey lineup, by the way, or matchup. Amazing jersey matchup. Traditional home reds for the Bulls and the traditional home whites for the Celtics. A 9.9 out of 10. Oh, I forgot about that. The wrong Brooks was involved. Wrong Brooks. That was Memphis days, right? Sorry, we meant Dylan Brooks, not Marshawn Brooks. No. You get Marshawn. Man, the Jet played all the way to the end. He was an effective player all the way to the end. Fun fact, I played golf with him this past summer. Great dude. Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Brooke Lopez was on that team, and he had not attempted a single three-pointer in his entire career. And then he just started chucking them one day. Was that Jason Terry? Jason Terry dapped up J.R. Smith. Wait, what? That was the Eastern Conference Finals or the actual finals? Remind me. That was during the finals, right? Or was he an assistant coach with Atlanta? J.R. Smith, man. That brand of player is an endangered species, the bucket getter. Like Cam Thomas might be the last. Oh, Bucks Cavs game. Right. Wait, Disney got rid of Splash Mountain? No way. I'm not going to doubt you, hell Wikipedia. Are you in the stands right now for the Rockets game? Look how shitty the quality of this stream is. Like, At some point in my career, something's got to work at some point, right? They rebranded it because of the cancel cult. Wait, I don't get it. What about Splash Mountain is cancelable? Oh, you're there covering the game as media? Good job, Elwick. Good job by you. I don't get it. Why was Splash Mountain? What did I miss? Helwick, I've been making you type this entire time you're trying to eat. All right, people. It is 4:10 p.m., which means it's time to go watch. I'm vamping because I'm deciding whether we need to do a Friday stream because it's All-Star. We're definitely not going to do a stream Monday next week. I think I'll come back Friday. I know you're on the edge of your seat thinking, are we going to do another stream on Friday? But if I can get back, I have a gig. I have to go to some sports business classroom downtown LA for Sirius XM. And if I get done with that and I'm able to get back home at a time, reasonable time, then we'll do another stream. But it is TBD at the moment. That's crazy. Lopez averaged 0% from three for 6 seasons, then 10% in 2015, 14% in 2016, then never below 34.5% except once. That is, if that doesn't speak to how the game has changed, I don't know what does. But it's been a pleasure, my friends. Helwick, I hope you enjoy the game tonight. You damn well know your audience doesn't have any plans this Valentine's weekend. We will be here. I've already caught shit from Mrs. Wobb at the moment. She loves holidays. She loves holidays and is sad I'm not going to be around. Oh, Devin Booker's out. Devin Booker's out. That probably means Jalen Green's about to be announced out. Jalen Green officially announced out for the Suns. Womp, womp, womp. Anyway, she's disappointed that I will not be around to take her out Valentine's Day because I will be busy watching the worst dunk contest of all time. I'll try and get some good content there, though. I'll find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. And maybe this stream will actually work for once. Until next time, my friends, it has been a pleasure. Hope you guys have a good Wednesday, and I will see you on the timeline. GG's in the chat. Hit that like button on the way out. Adios.